Hello, and welcome to The Faces of Gaming, a show where we look at some of the biggest names in the industry and look into their careers from their humble beginnings all the way to where they are now. My name is Drew, and today we're going to be looking at a man who we all know, love, and sometimes even loathe. Todd Howard. This passionate RPG nerd is the head of Bethesda game studios, and depending on who you are, has produced and directed some of the best games ever made: Oblivion, Fallout, and Skyrim. His journey all the way to the top of Bethesda is one that most gamers can only dream of, going from being a big fan of a certain game studio to working for them and making almost $1.5 million a year doing so. Let's go ahead and look into Howard's rise, from a fan of D&D and Wing Commander to the head of one of the most respected development studios around. Todd Howard was born in the Lower Macungie Township in Pennsylvania on April 25, 1971, and was a huge gamer as a child. He cites the Ultima games as being his favorite series as a kid and pegs it as being the biggest influence for his work today. He enjoyed the fact that while every game shared a universe and some game mechanics, for the most part each game was different in their own way. Each new game could be seen as a reboot of sorts, which allowed the formula to feel fresh with each release. This sort of makes sense of why each of Bethesda's games in recent years have had varying levels of depth and mechanics in them. Todd Howard sees a sequel as an opportunity to try something new rather than just rehash old mechanics. And in a way, it's respectable to see someone in the industry willing to make changes to tried and true formulas, even if those changes don't pan out all too well. Anyway, like many nerds, Howard was ridiculed and picked on for wanting to make games when he grew up, which famously bred the whole "who's laughing now" meme.
The other kids in the block would say, I'm gonna play quarterback for the Cowboys, and I'd be like, I'm gonna make video games and everyone's gonna play them. Like, you dork, go back to the chess club. Who's laughing now? Yes, I was in the chess club.
He would also bug his parents enough to buy him computers as a kid for education, when in reality all he wanted to do was play the latest games. Howard went on to graduate from Emmaus High School in Pennsylvania in 1989, and attended at the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia afterwards. In college, Howard spent most of his time in the computer labs installing, playing, and writing his own games. Getting frustrated with having to share the labs constantly, he once again bugged his parents into getting him a personal computer for education, which he then used to have a more consistent gaming experience during college. He wanted to get through his schooling as quickly and easily as possible in order to start his career in gaming. However, the path he took to do this would have some people reeling as he chose to double major in both engineering and finance. I'm sorry, but how is double majoring in anything the easiest path? While going through this easy path at college, Howard eventually got his hands on a copy of Wayne Gretzky Hockey 3, which was developed by Bethesda Softworks and released in 1991. After reading the back of the box, he realized that Bethesda was based right in the middle of his commute home from school, so one Christmas break he stopped by and asked for a job, without even graduating college yet. Their response was warranted. They declined him and told him to finish schooling first and then get back to him. Howard then graduated from school a couple years later and returned to Bethesda for a job. He was unfortunately turned down once again, only this time mostly because they didn't have any openings for him. He then went on to work for a small game company in Yorktown, Virginia that, quote, made little games that got no notice, which allowed him to attend various expos and conventions throughout the year. While attending these conventions, Howard would go out of his way to find Bethesda's booth and constantly remind them that he wanted to work for him. In 1994, after doing this a few times, he was eventually hired on to help them work on their next Terminator game, Terminator Future Shock. This was an early first-person shooter series in the same vein as Doom and Duke Nukem, and helped lay the groundwork for Bethesda's future projects like Elder Scrolls. For Bethesda at this time, they were mostly known as a developer of a wide variety of licensed games, from Wayne Gretzky to Terminator and even Where's Waldo. In 1994, however, this changed to Bethesda working on its own original projects while publishing other games from other developers. This change in policy coincided with Todd Howard's meteoric rise in the company. He went from being a designer, to a producer, to a project lead, to executive producer, to head of the studio in just under 14 years. Howard had his heart set on developing RPGs from the very beginning, which is why he helped lead Bethesda into becoming one of the most well-known RPG developers in the world. And it all started with the Elder Scrolls. The first Elder Scrolls game he technically worked on was Elder Scrolls Arena, where he simply helped port the game from MS-DOS to CD-ROM. He then worked on the Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall as a designer. It wasn't until the Elder Scrolls Adventures spin-off Redguard that Howard was able to stretch his creative muscle as the project lead and writer for the game. From this point on, Howard was the project lead and executive producer on most of Bethesda's games until 2008. This is when he was made the head of the studio and has been ever since. His popularity in the industry reached an all-time high with the release of Elder Scrolls V Skyrim in 2011. This game helped break RPGs out of their niche market and into the mainstream, much to everyone, including Bethesda's, surprise. Howard and his team were caught off guard by how successful Skyrim immediately was. Telling Polygon, certain things came together: people's mood, timing, vibe, marketing, all of it. But it happened very quickly, almost as soon as the game was out. With Skyrim's success, Howard became a household name with gamers, marking the point where he received the most recognition from both the media and the community. And, of course, with recognition comes scrutiny. His career has seen its fair share of praise and criticism. People love his passion and enthusiasm for gaming, but hate how often he over-embellishes his games or often over-promises. Radiant AI notwithstanding, though, it's hard to peg outright malicious lies from Todd Howard himself. Most of what he over-promises in his games are often over-ambitious mechanics that can't make it to the final cut, or things that are just harmlessly embellished for hype. Howard is far from a Molyneux-esque liar, and comes across more as a guy who is just really excited about what he is working on, at least for me. I know that the Sweet Little Lies meme is pretty hot right now.
These NPCs are not scripted.
Which is mostly due to Fallout 4's lukewarm reception and the release of Skyrim Special Edition, but when I look at Todd Howard, I don't see your typical fat cat industry liar. I see a gamer, someone who is damn excited about what he is working on and is excited to tell others about it. Yes, he exaggerates and generates too much hype for his games quite often, but you can at least tell that the passion is there. Most gamers complain that Bethesda's games are too dissimilar from their old ones. Fallout 4 needs to be more like New Vegas. Skyrim needs to be more like Oblivion. Oblivion needs to be more like Morrowind. And a lot of the time these criticisms are warranted. But can we really fault Bethesda for trying something new with each release, rather than spitting out the same game year after year a la Call of Duty? Bethesda has difficulty balancing the new mechanics with the old, that's for sure. But I'd rather we have the Bethesda we have now, who are constantly trying to challenge themselves over a Bethesda that rehashes their old games. That's just my 2 cents. At any rate, it's undeniable that Howard has had a huge impact on the industry. He's a gamer first and foremost that wants to make games that are fun to play, and you can't fault him for that. In a time of seemingly limitless reboots and franchises, I'm interested to see how Bethesda will adapt, especially after Skyrim Special Edition. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't damn excited every time I see Todd Howard come on stage at E3 to announce what they're doing next. Considering no new projects have been specifically announced, it's safe to say that Bethesda is going to take a lot more time working on their next game and making sure it's as good as they can possibly make it. And whatever that game ends up being, whether it's a new Fallout, Elder Scrolls, or something new, I know that gamers all over the world will be waiting for a chance to get their hands on it. In March of 2016, Howard was given the Lifetime Achievement Award at the 16th Annual Game Developers Conference, or GDC. A full 22 years after joining Bethesda, he's being recognized for shaping the RPG genre and the gaming industry as we know it. Todd Howard has spent his entire career trying his best to make the most entertaining and engrossing games he possibly can. He has immeasurable ambition and drive to create games that grab us and make us waste hours on end playing, just like he did in college. He is exactly what most aspiring game developers strive to be one day, and that is why he's one of the most important faces of gaming today. What's up guys, long time no see. Callie and I have been hard at work making some new shows for you guys. I know it's been kind of weird with the uploads recently. We stopped uploading content completely for 2 months and then suddenly started uploading Twitch streams, which is probably not what you guys subscribed for. And I'm aware of that, but it's still something I'd like to do because we're Twitch streaming a lot more now, almost at least 4 to 3 times a week. I'm trying to stream every day, but I might tone that down a little bit because I want to really focus on you guys on YouTube. And part of that refocus is bringing this show, The Faces of Gaming, to you guys, which is going to be a bi-weekly, maybe even weekly show, depending on how popular it is and how much you guys like it, where I'm going to keep focusing on these big figures in gaming. I'm also developing a show where I'm going to be able to do weekly news updates for you guys and give you guys my opinions on what's going on in the industry, but that's going to be a little bit more off the cuff, so it's a little easier for me to edit and something I can get out every single week. So yeah, stay tuned to that. I might also post some Twitch highlights from Connor and I playing PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, or Matt and I playing Rainbow Six Siege, or anything else like Dark Souls or something like that. If you guys like our Twitch streams, let me know, and if you haven't followed us on Twitch or checked out any of our Twitch content, you should definitely go check it out. I stream almost every day at about 2 o'clock Eastern. Anyway, I've been rambling on long enough. Thank you guys for sticking through this video, and thank you for watching, and please leave a like if you guys actually like this new show. You can leave a dislike if you didn't like it, and then I'll just scrap the idea altogether. Anyway, thanks guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.